So, welcome back to the Theatre of Dreams football podcast brought to you by Radio Alty and Ultragame Community Media. And on a Wednesday, you have your usual wonderful panel of Harry Morell and Erin Carroll, both of Radio Robins and other things. How are you both?
Yeah,
Go on,
not
I'll
so
let you go.
bad. Not so bad. It's strange when there's no football. When that routine goes, you don't know what to do with yourself. I've started
Mm.
baking. I've started doing all sorts of stuff, just trying to fill the void of which football is. So I thought I'd go with the most stressful hobby, which was trying to make a Christmas cake. And so far, it's not going very well. At least I've got plenty of time till Christmas Day anyway.
Harry, I applaud you
Thank you.
because I think making a Christmas cake in November is one of the classic countdown things to Christmas.
Exactly.
And you can spice it up with plenty of brandy and then leave it aside. Do not touch it, and you never quite know what you're going to get at Christmas.
Oh, it's a bit like Manchester United. You never know what you're going to get at the moment with them. We've gone from we've gone from being doom and gloom, thinking we're going to give them a piece of coal rather than anything nice for a Christmas present, and now even with a draw, I'm feeling quite positive. So it's quite. Again, I don't like international breaks all too much, but I'm sort of quite content, quite calm. We just have to wait and see if the cake rises and see if I've got a soggy bottom. But that's a problem for another day.
Well, talking about soggy bottoms, I'm not going to come to anybody. Erin, how is it from your side? Because both your teams are going well. Because we'll talk about the Alty at the weekend, but City seem to be just slipping into gear.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it looks as if, don't want to say it just yet, but it looks as if my football club might be well and truly back. I mean, obviously, that at the weekend definitely helped against Liverpool. Alty won at the weekend. I was at Goodison Park supporting City Women on Sunday, and they went top of the league and all. So, a very good week in all.
A really good way. We're going to talk today in the discussion section about football managers. We're going to talk about Rob Edwards. We're going to talk about Pep's 1,000 games, and also going to talk about a year under Ruben. But this, first of all, go back to the weekend and just remind ourselves what was going on. We'll start with the Premier League on Saturday. A Desmond Tutu at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for United. Do you know this was one of those games where you sort of thought to yourself, United, you're just not taking your chances. But then we could have lost it. And up steps to it with a wonderful defender header. A strange game, wasn't it, Harry?
Yeah, I think strange is probably the best word for it because it's strange the fact it was on at 12:30,
Oh,
and it was almost like a an exact copy of a certain European Cup final, which we won't talk about. But United seemed to be they went ahead in the 32nd minute with Brian and Bumo, looked really confident, and then Mateus Tell scores in the 84th minute, and then Richarlison scores in the 91st minute, and you're thinking, oh, we're all this optimism has gone. We've lost our winning streak. The guy's hair is going to be longer than mine. All of this sort of stuff. And then, as you say, Mateus de Ligt, proper defender's header into the top corner. And one thing I'll say about Mateus de Ligt, he has faced a lot of criticism at Manchester United. He was brought in under Eric Ten Hag. He was adamant he wanted him in his squad. He's only 26, by the way, and I think at the moment he was given the captaincy at Ajax, and he's not currently in the leadership roles at United, but he's slowly but surely coming into those
oh.
roles of responsibility and confidence. And he's the sort of player you want on your pitch. But yeah, strange game of football. Could have been more. Could have taken our chances. It's just deja vu. Even from the Nottingham Forest game, it's pretty much deja vu all over again.
And it was, I mean, it sort of mirrored that cup final in a way. The football wasn't great by either side.
No, it really, really wasn't. And again, Brian and Bumo, brilliant player. Amad Diallo on that right hand side, brilliant player. Both players were going to lose with the African Cup of Nations coming up very, very quickly. And if we can't put away our chances in a game like this when they're both there, what are we going to be like
Yeah.
when we do lose those really instrumental players or influential players, should I say? And then another concern we've got as well is we finished the game with 10 men because with this new number of times you can make substitutions, the manager obviously didn't think that Benjamin Sesko would pick up an injury. We finished the game at 10 men, managed to score with 10 men, which whenever our backs are against the wall, we seem to do okay. But the latest news coming out of Carrington is the fact that Sesko has stayed with this injury. He's staying at Carrington. It's not a major concern, but I'm quite glad to see him staying at Carrington so he can receive that full rehabilitation. But yeah, he just seems to be getting good, and then he gets an injury like this. And then, as always, in Manchester United, as soon as there's an injury with our striker, we start looking around for other strikers. And it would have been great if we hadn't sent a certain Rasmus Højlund out on loan to Napoli, being able to call on him. But hey ho, that's all in the past now.
Can't seem to get him back either.
No.
There was another Desmond Tutu at Sunderland. I think this was possibly the game of the weekend because Sunderland flying high, and again a sort of last minute equaliser from them. Did you see this at all, Erin?
I saw a bit, so I didn't see much of anything on Saturday, but I did watch Match of the Day, and I was like, wow. Sunderland for me have been the team that's really, really impressed me. And to think that you wouldn't have thought, and I'm sure there's a bit of uproar in the northeast, especially from Newcastle United fans. I'm sure they won't be too pleased with how things are going at the moment. But to do that against Arsenal, I mean, the thing that got me laughing was the way they tried to defend it. It just seemed like Gabriel had just gone flying past him in any direction other than where he should have been. But I think for me, to do that against a team like Arsenal, who typically will normally have it's about 10, 11 play all 11 behind the ball at once, to do that just to keep and stick at it. Sunderland knew what they had to do, and all it takes in football is that one little chance. It doesn't matter how it goes in. If it goes in, it goes in. But that's gonna ruffle a few feathers, especially for Arsenal.
Harry, you got to say, Sunderland are looking like the real deal in the Premier League, and they've caused Arsenal to concede their first goals after an 8 clean sheets. I mean, that's not Arsenal have been defensively very good this season. The big difference between this season and last season, but Sunderland got amongst them, didn't they?
They really did. And if I'm honest, I can completely echo the fact that I thought that this was the game of the weekend. And it's not a surprise. I think it was number one on Match of the Day. But watching it, you were thinking, if you didn't actually know that Sunderland were playing in red and white and it was Arsenal, you wouldn't have thought that it was Sunderland. That's currently fourth in the league. And it really shows that with the Premier League as it is now, you have to spend money to be successful. And they've taken a leaf out of Nottingham Forest's book. When they first came up, they practically mortgaged the club to bring players in. They brought a lot of players in, but Sunderland have come in with a vision, brought in some brilliant signings, one of which is Granit Xhaka, who has been brilliant for the Black Cats at the moment. And look, you're 3 points off Manchester City in second place, going into an international break, all but securing your Premier League survival. Yet the Opta supercomputer still has Sunderland going down, which I don't know how they'll be able to do that, but that would be a truly big upset. But no, Sunderland, I think they've done brilliantly well, and they're just a joy to watch. And also, it's a joy they're bringing back set pieces and long throw-ins. Did you see at the Stadium of Light that they actually closed down the advertising hoarding to make it harder for Arsenal's long throw-ins?
I heard this.
Yeah.
Talk about relegation. Two sides that are battling to stay alive. West Ham versus Burnley. West Ham had maybe an uncharacteristic win against Burnley, 3-2 at the weekend, and it came from behind. So, I mean, interesting. More fans protest by West Ham fans. They're excellent at that, aren't they? Every season.
I would say with that as well, it was well needed, and it was a game which came at the right time for the Hammers. And the other thing that I think, if you're a West Ham fan, yes, there's a lot of protest around the club. There was something to celebrate there, because as we know as United fans, all last season, every goal pretty much came through from Bruno Fernandes. Whereas this game, I think this was the first time, and I don't know what the stat is, in a number of games that Jared Bowen wasn't involved with any of the goals, either by scoring or assisting. So you can see there that Nuno's been brought in, and he's been able to change things around, and slowly but surely starting to build. I think, as you're saying, with both clubs there, you've got West Ham, Forest and Wolves. They're in a very tricky predicament, Wolves especially. I think it's going to be very difficult for them trying to come out of that position. But then you look at Leeds United as well, another team who have come up, and there was question marks about Daniel Farke before the season even started, and then those question marks getting even louder now. It's a great table at the moment, both at the top end and the bottom end of the Premier League.
And Everton continue their decent form under Moisey, isn't it?
Mhm.
And with Guy's second Premier League goal of the season, opening the scoring, and then Michael Keane double to give the Toffees the lead, isn't that right? But Pickford seemed to be in good form as well. Ended there 2-0 at I still got to get used to this, the Hill Dickinson Stadium. It just doesn't trot off the tongue at
Oh,
all.
it's a fortress at the moment. It's an absolute
It is.
fortress. Paul.
It is the tank on the hill. And then we're going to be talking about their manager in a bit. But the evening game was Chelsea 3, Wolves 0. And of course, the Wolves manager was he replaced after that game?
No, before that game, they went into Stamford Bridge clash managerless with their assistant head coach in charge. But now they've managed to find a replacement, and yet that was arguably the biggest story across not only the Championship but also the Premier League this weekend.
Interesting. The headline there says that Garnacho was impressive, and I'm just looking at his match stats. I didn't see it actually, so
No, can I
I'm
can I just say now, there's Garnacho. When he was at United and he was on his peak, he was great. But the thing that grinds my gears every single time he either scores or assists, he sits on the sodding advertising hoarding, and it
oh
just boils
oh.
my blood.
It's like he's trying to reincarnate that bloody image that he had when he was at
Oh,
United. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Sorry, it's funny the little things that can get
it
to you,
is.
isn't it?
It
It
is.
it started off with the guy who always hammers the metal hoardings at Stamford Bridge every time they score. That was the thing that did me head in. And then I saw that with Garnacho, and he's just anyway. He seems to be. He wasn't. He hasn't scored in this game, but to be honest, the 3-0 against the managerless Wolves, who are yet to win in the Premier League, could have been more. But anyway, Chelsea are happy, and I'm sure Wolves are a lot more happier now. They've managed to secure a managerial position in the
And
international break.
I have to admit, I don't really, I don't follow Chelsea, and I don't know what Chelsea's like really under this new manager. Have you got any of you guys got a view on that? Because they're sitting third, and they're what six? No, yeah, 6 points behind the leaders, Arsenal. But you know. They're looking comfortable there for at least Champions League football next year.
I think with Chelsea, it's kind of very hit and miss. I mean, I keep an eye on Chelsea's boss just because he was City's assistant coach not long back. So he's another one of Pep Guardiola's students, and there seems to be quite a few of them doing quite well for themselves at the moment. But with Chelsea, I think it's very hit and miss. It depends on who they play. They've got a lot of disciplinary problems under him. There's been a lot of red cards under him, which I don't think has helped. And him himself, he's susceptible to the odd yellow card, red card more or less it seems like every week at the moment that they're having some discipline problem. But no, they're sitting comfortably in the table, and I mean, I think against Wolves you'd have kind of expected them to have won that, especially with the run of form that Wolves are on. But I think for Chelsea, they are sitting comfortable for Champions League places. I think they automatically qualified for either Champions League or Europa League by winning the Conference League last season under him. So he's
Yeah.
not done too bad a job.
No, no.
The,
Before we turn to the National League, let's just mention the Women's Super League. The London Derby, Arsenal won, Chelsea won. Um,
Ooh.
so an interesting goal from Russo on the
Mhm.
87th minute. Arsenal would have been very pleased with that. There was 56,000 at the Emirates Stadium for that game on Saturday. Good tens, wasn't it?
There was, however, Arsenal won't be pleased with that. They should have had all 3 points. There was a lot of controversy in that. So there was a goal that was ruled out, which would have equalised Arsenal earlier through Stina Blackstenius, but the ball hits her on the thigh and then hits her sort of across the stomach. And obviously her arms are by her sides, but then the goal goes in and the ref disallows it and nobody knows why. And apparently they gave it as handball. They thought that it had hit her arm and it hadn't, which and Renee Slager's Arsenal boss was booked in protest, and they're now calling for VAR to be introduced because
Yeah.
arguably Arsenal should have won that.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. And United will be disappointed to have gone down 1-0 against Villa in the same competition that afternoon at the Progress with Unity Stadium. Another one that trots off the tongue. It's disappointing. 3,500 people to watch this. I don't know. They lost 1-0 at home to Villa. And just thinking, what does that mean for the table, actually? It means they dropped down to third place, 8 games played, 17 points. Chelsea lead. City are second with 18 points. Was that a disappointing result at the weekend?
No, basically, obviously Chelsea drew 1-0 with Arsenal. You guys lost 1-0 to Villa, and the attendance probably, I'd argue, is because it was an early kickoff. It was 12 o'clock on a Saturday. But City played Everton on Sunday at Goodison. I was there, and because we won at Goodison, that means we've leapfrogged Chelsea on top. So
Yeah.
we sit top of the table on 21.
This was as of Saturday. My apologies. Of course, it
Saturday.
was after that game. Right. Okay. And then let's go. Sorry, Harry.
I was just going to say, it's always great not seeing Chelsea atop of the WSL, as they've been the real dominating force in the competition. I wouldn't have liked it to have been Manchester City, but Miedemar was on fire again at Goodison, and it's great to see Goodison actually being the home of Everton women, rather than it just being turned into blocks of flats like we've seen with Highbury and Main Road. But for Manchester United, yes, we lost against Aston Villa only by a goal, but realistically, this week you could argue is probably their most important week of football. They've got Champions League tonight, the first time this season. There'll be European competitions at Old Trafford, so they'll be looking to move on in the Champions League. It's the first time they've ever qualified for the Champions League proper. And then also as well, you've got the Manchester derby on the weekend, and that's the game that I'm really, really looking forward to. I love a proper derby, and I'd love to do one over Manchester City, of course, but at the same time,
Please not
again.
Not again.
Before we talk about the weekend, let's talk about the Altringham's match in the National League. It's one heck of a trek down to Truro, but it's always better when you win. And we've got to say big thank you to AO, who sponsored the buses that go down there. I believe that's right, isn't it, Erin?
Yeah, they paid for our supporters to go down.
I've just seen a quote on a website. It says 2 terrible sides, 1 awful game. I have to say, I think that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, that's harsh. I mean, if anyone's going to be an awful side out of the two of them, it's the one that currently sit rock bottom of the table.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was apparently a great late volley that sealed. It's now back wins for Alty.
It is. We won last Wednesday against Boston United. I did the commentary on that one second half. That was a really good game. I mean, Hutchinson saved a penalty at 30 minutes. Altrincham were awarded a penalty at 34, went down the other end and dispatched it and kept it at 1-0. But that's 2 back-to-back wins, which for us is massive. Sees us clear of the bottom of the table. Neil Gibson, has done a remarkable job since coming in. He's got 7 points out of the last 9 for us, which before then we were on a terrible run. But the volley, it just has to be said. I mean, Rog, you've got to have a look at this. It is incredible. He hits it for, I think it's 30 odd yards on his weak foot, and it just loops into the top left, and the keeper's absolutely nowhere near it.
And remind me, where can you see all the goals for Alty? Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, they get posted on YouTube, I think, it's 3-4 hours later.
Yeah, it's on the YouTube channel called Alty TV, which takes the direct to zone feed. So I think you've heard myself and Erin go a little bit bananas when Alty score a last-minute winner. Well, me certainly anyway. But no, when somebody said 2 poor teams, I think that win for Alty is massive. It leapfrogs us up into 15th in the league, which is a much better position to be in than wavering above the bottom 4. It also injects that confidence into the squad as well. And also, if you've travelled all the way down there and you get to see that volley, I thought it was impressive from where I'm sat in Urmston. if I was down in Truro City and able to see that for myself, I'd be that's well worth the journey.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the important thing is now sitting on 20 points, the gap to the bottom is 7 points. That starts to build a bit of a buffer for you, and actually you're only 9 points off seventh place. I mean, it's tight in that league as we've said before, but it's like a classic thing, isn't it? It's about momentum. It's about getting a winning memory, if you like, and they're doing it. What do you think is going to happen longer term on management, or have I missed something? What is going to happen?
The only thing that we've sort of heard out of the club was a statement from the chairman, Mark Luby, that they are looking at appointing someone long term. So that I don't think that will be Neil Gibson. I mean, I'm not necessarily against it given the last 3 games. I mean, obviously there's still more to come, but I'm not against it if he was to be given the job, say, till the end of the season, just to see how things petered out. But it looks as if long term they are looking for someone, but there hasn't been a lot of names linked around it. So I think there never normally is, unless you're looking at your clubs like your Carlisles, your York, your Forest Green. You're gonna get rumours, but we don't really get anything, do we, Harry? So no one really
No.
knows what's going on long term.
No, but I'll tell you what, the interim boss, he's certainly given himself a good boost in terms of boosting his opportunity, the chance of him being the manager long term. But it's, as we've always said with this, we never wanted a rush decision. We want to make sure that it's well thought out and there's a clear vision. Like when Phil Parkinson came in the first place, and when we just come off a relegation, there was a clear vision to get us back up, and we need to find a manager like that. But look, as Alty fans, things do seem to be getting better. It does help when you pick up 3 points, especially on your longest trip of the season. Obviously, they're at the J Davis Stadium on Saturday night, and they'll be hoping to try and get some more points there. I believe it's against is it Brackley Town?
Yeah.
I think I'm at that game actually. Yeah.
There you go. So it's one of those where it's a mid-table clash, but as you say, this league is. The magic of the National League is you can leapfrog so many teams in what seems to be just a matter of games. So we're breathing down the necks of the top 10, and Halifax Town especially, they're currently sat in that 10th place position. Once you start challenging with the likes of them, I'm all for it. I'm enjoying it at the moment, and I think I think we should keep that yellow kit that we wore down in Truro City. It was a one-off, all yellow kit, but it seems to be provided the good luck charm, and hopefully if you get Keaton Ward in that again, he'll score another screamer from 30 yards out also.
It seems the Robins are more lucky as canaries in yellow, but that is a good result, a good away trip. Now, we've been talking about not so steady Eddie, and it certainly was the case on Sunday where Brentford end up beating Newcastle United at home 3-1, despite Newcastle going 1-0 up at halftime with Harvey Barnes's goal. More pressure for Eddie Howe at the moment, I guess, eh?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, obviously, it's not going too well for them at the moment, is it? I think is it 14th, I want to say, in the league at the moment. They're not having a very good time at all. And I mean, it certainly will ruffle a few feathers that Sunderland are considerably doing better than them, which is obviously, as a Magpie, something you don't want to see. But I think he is in a bit of trouble here because nothing seems to be going right for them at the moment. I'm sure they were beaten by West Ham just before that as well, which you could argue is probably a pretty poor defeat. Obviously, with West Ham struggling, I mean, don't get me wrong, Nuno is a brilliant manager and deserves a lot of credit for what he did at Forest, but Newcastle really need to book their ideas up and they need to start doing something about it soon.
Yeah, I was going to say they've got a really tricky run of games. The first game back on the 22nd of November is at home to Manchester City, and then they seem to be doing quite well in the Champions League, but then they're starting to get amongst the big boys now. They're playing against Marseille, and then they're going to the Hill Dickinson Stadium, Everton's Fortress. That'll be difficult, and then obviously they got Spurs, and then Leverkusen, and then the big one, Sunderland at the Stadium of Lights. That's got the feelings of, I don't think Eddie Howe should get the sack, or that should be in contention. But if, as we've seen with Amram, there's games like the United Burnley game, which had written all over it managerial changes. Sunderland, Newcastle, that's going to be a lot of pressure on the manager. Don't get me wrong, I think he's brilliant. I think he's a great coach. But one thing in football is you don't get a lot of time, regardless of if you've won a trophy. Time is never with the manager. It's always against him. You've got to get some results, and quickly.
I don't know why Burns got his red card, which was 2 yellows on 73, but that must have been the tipping point because Thiago scored with a penalty on 78th, and then he got the third goal the 5th minute of extra time. So you wonder how much that red card really hurt them, but not good for Newcastle at the moment, and not a great away trip
No.
when you're going all that way down. Let's go to the Villa game. 4-0 against AFC Bournemouth. This was a bit of a rout, wasn't it?
Oh,
It what?
you can say that again. It's a heck of a long way going from the south coast to Birmingham on a Sunday at 2 o'clock, and 4-0 is just. Let's just say I think it was a long trip there and it was a long trip back. Bournemouth, if you look at the Premier League table at the moment, it's almost like an optical illusion. Like United at the weekend, where could have been in second. We were in second for 5 minutes, and you go half time, got to have a pint, and you think happy days, we're in second here. And then by the end of the game, you're thinking, hang on, how are we in eighth? Oh no, we're in ninth now. Oh, we're back to seventh. It's just an absolute roller coaster. And Iriola, he's I think Villa sort of figured out his game plan, and they seem to do that against City as well. It seemed to have Semenyo seemed to be dealt with pretty much every time he touched the ball, and Villa seemed to get the game plan down to a T as well. So 4-0. Villa, who couldn't even score at the start of the season, they'll certainly be pleased to get 4 on the weekend this time around.
And 4 different goal scorers as well, and spread out right across the two halves, and they play with what is probably a non-trendy 4-4-2 these days. It's not like some.
We've got the return of long throws. We've got the return of set pieces. We're going to have the return of Mike Bassett, of course, the return of 4-4-2.
It'll be return of the Mac next. Let's go to the big game on Sunday. It was City versus Liverpool at the Etihad Stadium. I did watch this, and I gotta say, it was, I don't know. Do you think the 3-0? I mean, Doku was wonderful, wasn't he? He's just wonderful. He played brilliantly, but I wonder whether this was as much about City as it's about Liverpool's underslot, because I'm trying to remember the game just to speaking here. I'm trying to think, how rudimentary was it for City? Or actually, was this about Liverpool not turning up? Have you got a view on that, guys?
I want to say I think it was more City figuring out Liverpool than it was the other way around. I mean, I'm not saying, obviously, I'm a blue. I'm going to say, oh, look, it was brilliant. We did this, we did that, we did this, we did that. But I think for us to do that at the moment, because I mean, we're still not fully back to maybe what we were the last couple of seasons. We've lost a lot of players and everything's sort of changing still. But I think to do that against a relatively strong Liverpool side, who probably argued that it was a bit controversial that the goal. I mean, personally, I'm going to say no. It should have been ruled out, and everyone's going to have different views on this. And PGMOL have stated this morning that the decision was right. Howard Webb's come out and said no, the decision was right. Everything was done correctly.
Was that because he ducked out of the way? Was that the goal?
Yeah, it was off the corner, wasn't it? Or the ball came in from across. Van Dijk headed it. Robertson ducked. They're basically saying that he blocked Donnarumma's eye line, and obviously that's the way the rule goes. If you are stood there, it's probably going to be disallowed. But only him himself. I mean, to be fair though, what I noticed, I don't know whether you guys saw this, Robertson didn't celebrate straight away like the rest of them did. He sort of trundled off with his head down because I think he knew what he'd done.
We see, I guess in some ways, the very fact he had to duck meant that he was active because he was in the ball line, and therefore would have been, if he hadn't done so, it would have come off him. But also, he would have been in the line of the keeper. And you could say the keeper might have thought, well, he's offside, and therefore, if it hits him, it's not going to be a goal. But it was an odd one, really. But you could see that he was active because he had to duck.
Yeah.
To allow the goal to go in. He almost dummied it in a way. Maybe I'm justifying it too much, really, but that's the way I saw it.
I don't think you're wrong. I think he knows he's done wrong there because he just sort of trundled away, didn't he? And I don't know whether you think the same, Harry, but I think they got it right.
Yeah, I would have said, regardless if I was a fan or not, I'm not of Liverpool, but I would say if you're stood in the way of the goalkeeper and you are causing the goalkeeper to react lately because you're stood in their eyesight, then you are offside. And I think especially you could argue, or the reason why he didn't celebrate was because he sort of knew he'd done wrong. I think in today's era of football, if there's ever any doubt, you just can't celebrate, because it will go through like they'll go through it with a magnifying glass and check everything. But I don't think they really have much complaining. I think Donnarumma arguably would have got to that if Robertson wasn't there. Yes, it was a great header, but if your player stood offside, he's stood offside. I saw that Chris Sutton, he likes quite an expletive or quite a strong word about certain teams, and he said that it was a disastrous start for Liverpool this season. Would you use such a strong a term as disastrous under Slot 2.0?
I don't know.
I think that's in the context of them winning the league last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Liverpool have got into a pattern of play, despite them being, sitting eighth and equal points with United, equal points with Villa, etc., equal points with Bournemouth. I think they just don't seem to me to be a team that have found their stride at the moment. Mm-hmm. And if I was being harsh, I would turn around and say, that wasn't Slot's team last year. He took it over. He jumped into a moving car and just put his foot in the gas. Mm-hmm. This time he's played around with the team a little bit through the window, and it just doesn't seem to be gelling as much. I mean, I don't remember games very much, but I remember watching this game with great interest, because it is a tactician's mastermind sort of thing, and you're looking at this. You're looking at it from a number of different angles, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because you thought Haaland uncharacteristically had a penalty saved. And it was a bit of a soft penalty, but you're sort of thinking, right, that's Liverpool's break. You've broken him. How much will that play on his mind? And they didn't capitalize on that at all. And even though Haaland got the first goal, Jeremy Doku, who's got a lot of credit from this game and the season, he was running them silly down the left, and in that box he was a threat so many times. But we talked about it before. It was interesting because City are not playing as City have played in the past. They are much more uncharacteristic in how they're going to play it. Long balls, short balls, tight, etc. And I just don't think Liverpool knew how to read them at the weekend.
Well, you had this when it was United versus Liverpool, and Amorim had decided to not play Sesko because he knew that the aerial duels would play into the hands of Van Dijk. And then Slot, in his post-match interview, I'm paraphrasing here, but he essentially kicked off to say that we didn't expect Manchester United to play that way. They normally play like this. So he's not prepared to sort of change his squad around, change his tactics around. Yet if you look at City, Doku didn't... I think I'm right in saying this, Erin. There was a lot of question marks raised as to why Doku wasn't starting. He's now starting. And they're changing stuff around. If you look at that Bournemouth game, as I said, they absolutely read Bournemouth, probably gave Bournemouth the best game that they've had this season, because they were actually walked off the park. And then if you look at this game, this was meant to be, yes, it was a great game to watch. It wasn't the normal ball fest that we watch on a Sunday night football, but it wasn't quite as end-to-end as we thought it would be. And you're saying, is it Slot? Is it Guardiola? I would more go down the line of this is City finding their feet, finding their groove, finding their rhythm under Guardiola. And they seem, as we've seen season after season after season, when Manchester City get into the groove, get into the rhythm, they're an absolute juggernaut and they can walk over anyone.
And of course, it was Slot's, Guardiola's, 1,000th game as a manager. He's had 716 wins on that game, so it's over a 70% win rate there as a manager. And you got to say that what this season is starting to prove about him is, as a tactician of the game, as a lover of the game, as a mastermind of the game, he's starting to he's not wedded to one style of football. We've said this so many times, and I wrote down here, even he's a student of the game, and it's he loves that, learning the game, the tactics, and he doesn't seem to ever get tired of learning the tactics and playing with the game. It's quite it's how you sustain a great career as a manager.
Well, how many transitions has that team had? How many Guardiola teams have there been? You could sort of argue with Sir Alex, he really had his two teams these two major teams, which are the 99 team and then the 2008 team. Guardiola is obviously, when he arrived, he had a completely different team to what he has now. And yet, I don't think there's ever really been a point where Manchester City have been, they're in a team in transition, they're really struggling because, well, just look at the record in silverware, which is a real pain to say as a Manchester United fan. But he's the manager, he's a great manager, and he's the sort of manager who can solve the problem at any football club, really.
And it's not all just lovely players and tactics, because I saw another stat I saw at the weekend was that City have covered more ground than any other side in the EPL this season, an average of 115.3 kilometers per game, up 5.5 kilometers per last season. So he's clearly saying to them, you've got to put more work in, you got to make more runs, and that's part of his change in, I guess, tactics, not necessarily philosophy, but that's what makes him a manager with 1,000 games, over 700 wins. That's why, really.
I mean, his records speak for himself. I mean, as you just said, the 716 wins speak for themselves. I mean, I'm just looking at City's article now. 40. The man's won 40 trophies across his career with loads of different clubs. He's won 12 league titles in 16 complete seasons. He's won pretty much everything there is to win in club football, hasn't he, really? He's won the Prem, he's won the Liga, he's won the Champions League, he's won the Club World Cup, he's won the League Cup, he's won the FA Cup, he's won the Copa del Rey. He's won everything, hasn't he? And as for the English top flight game, where he's been with City for, I think it's 9, 10 years now, only Sir Alex Ferguson has won more in the English game than him. And I think it's mental when you look at it. I mean, to go for 1,000 games in management itself is crazy. How many managers can you say that have done that? I think Jurgen Klopp's one of them. He's done 1,000 games. I think Alex Ferguson definitely has done 1,000 games. And but I think just the way you look at it is his win rate is mental. And it just shows how quick he is to adapt. Because I mean, you look at City's poor run of form last season between this time and January. That's completely behind him now. We look like a different side now.
I was just going to say, you mentioned some big names there, but one name you did forget. The man, the myth, the legend, Neil Warnock. 1,960 games. We can't forget him. The true pioneer of English football. But anyway, no, I'm all joking aside there. But I think Guardiola is, when the day that he does leave Manchester City, I think a lot of teams in the Premier League will be not quite cracking open a bottle of something, but they would be interested to see what it's like when he's not there, because he's always been seen as this by the gold standard for the Premier League. It'd be interesting to see what happens when he does finally decide to hang up his CP jacket or whatever jacket he's wearing on the on the touchline.
There is actually rumours this morning that it does look likely that he could not extend his contract. City are inevitably preparing for the end of the season should he not renew.
But who would you bring in after that? Because I'm sure every single club has a list. If you've gone, like, obviously, just look at United. We had the greatest manager of all time, and trying to fill his boots, well, we're still struggling to do so, some might argue.
I'm gonna go with a bold shout here, and I'm sure some City fans would agree with me based on his record with Burnley and how he's getting on now. Vincent Kompany. I would bring him in. I would bring in Vincent Kompany, and I reckon he'd do a cracking job.
You're on mute, Rod.
Sorry. I was going to say I think that is the shout, and I think he would move from Bayern to City. I think that would be the move.
100%.
I think that's all part of the chess game. To be honest with you, these things aren't a chance. I got to say, I have never heard any United fans speak badly about Pep Guardiola, and I think he's one of those managers that, regardless of the fact that he's in a rival club, you almost he's too cool for school, but in a lot of ways,
It's like a thorn in our side, and I think that's a good thing. I do think that's a good thing when the team in the same city as you, in the other half of the city, is performing so well. That makes you go, look, we need to book up our ideas now, rather than looking to the past and thinking of all the glory days. It's that competition is needed, because otherwise, if you don't have that pressure, you can't improve.
And I tell you what I do like about him. is his passion, right? Is that Spanish passion, and he's quite a cool dude too, and I would have him
He
round the
is.
table. I would have him round the table. I would buy a nice bottle of Rioja, and I'd say, Pep, let's talk. But I would actually talk about music and art and all those things. But anyway, let's move on before anybody thinks I'm turning blue. In the Women's Super League, some interesting scores there. Some interesting draws as well. So Liverpool drawing at home to Brighton Hove Albion. Was this a surprise at all, Erin?
It was actually because Liverpool up until that point hadn't picked up a point all season long. So that's their first point. However, you could argue they'll be frustrated not to come away with the win because Brighton scored, I think it was 90 plus 3, I want to say, in added time. So I think Liverpool will be more annoyed that they've not got all 3 points out of that. But it was a bit of a surprise as I thought Brighton would have kicked on.
And the team in the Super League, which is the weird one, and I don't mean that in an awful way, but because they don't really are not linked to a traditional football team, London City Lionesses,
Hmm.
because you've got every other team, I think, in the Women's Super League, they're associated with a standard football club. London City
Yep.
Lionesses doesn't trip off the tongue either. They've got to really work on these names, haven't they? But they beat, I guess, local rivals, Tottenham 4-2. That seemed like a big game.
Yeah, that was a big game. I mean, Spurs have been high flying this season. They're sitting in fifth at the moment. Currently, I mean, obviously they're doing well for themselves and they haven't conceded a lot until that point. I think they're only conceding maybe one or two a game, and then we stuck five past them in September, and then London City have stuck four past them. But to be fair to them, London City Lionesses aren't doing a bad job for himself. I mean, the owner's an absolute billionaire. She's minted, and she's just chucked money and money and money and money over the summer. Like Grace Euro, they've got her. She's a world class player. Danielle van der Donk has been a world class player for a long, long time.
Mm.
Cassandra Aslani, world class player, and they'll know her from her City days. And they've got so much talent in that team, and I'd be surprised if they weren't picking up the points. But against Spurs, to put four past them at the moment really shocked me.
And your team went to now Goodison Park, the home of Everton Ladies
They
Football
did.
Club. Did you go, by the way?
I did. I was there.
Good on you. And
So
what was it like to be at Goodison in that game?
I absolutely loved it. Just love everything about it. It's such a nice ground to visit. The staff and the stewards were so welcoming. But the one thing I want to point out is I sort of look back at the videos that are posted by City's media team afterwards. We didn't realise just how loud we were. There wasn't a lot of City fans, about 100, 150, 200 maybe. There wasn't a lot, but we made a lot of noise, and you can hear it back on the cheering at the end. And I think my
Harry,
mate Caroline pointed this out to me.
Harry, I wouldn't be surprised if one Bo Carroll was the lightest of them all, would
Yeah,
you?
I thought
Oh,
I thought I could hear you on the television feed, and I was going to ask you. I'm guessing you took an umbrella with you because I think that was probably the rainiest football ground I've seen in a long time.
it was a soggy one, but I mean, no, I think I did actually nearly deafen my friends. I had Ella one side of me, Caroline the other, and Lynn's in front of me, and I just must have screamed something. I think we were messing
I,
about with it in the box at one point. I was like,
I,
just get it
I,
out.
I think we need a chant for Erin Bo Carroll. Erin Bo Carroll goes
It's
to
great. It's
Everton
good.
to
It's a
watch her
good game.
City. Anyway, her voice is bloody massive. Anyway, well, good game though. And I mean, you were leading. You give one away before half time, and then Shaw with a goal, 54 minutes. It seemed like after that you were comfortable, or how was it?
Well, I wouldn't say comfortable. I mean, first half, we probably could have had one within the first couple of minutes. Bunny Shaw pretty much had a really good save made against her to keep it at 0-0. But Viv Miedema, I just want to talk about the assist for that goal because Iman Bene, a 19-year-old Swiss teenager, was seeing everything's three passes ahead. Just she got the ball in midfield, turned and played a through ball to Miedema, and she's never going to miss from that range. I mean, the goal before half time, that had been coming for a long, long time. I think we all knew as City fans that was going to happen. But Kelly Gago, the player that scored, literally the ball come across it, she back heeled it past the goalkeeper. There's literally just a no look finish, a quick back heel into the back of the net. But Bunny Shaw is inevitable and she's never going to miss from 10, 15 yards where she were for a header. but it was a really good goal. I mean, City rode their luck second half. We had one bounce off the line from the inside of the post, which could have drawn Everton level. And I would have said Everton would have deserved a draw out of that. But obviously, as a blue, very pleased with the result as it got us on top of the table.
Well, it's just looking at the table. So in the Women's Super League, they've most of the teams have played eight, and City. What was the one that you lost? Because you played seven, you've won seven, lost one. What was the game you lost?
Chelsea away, first game of the season. So City haven't lost in the league since I want to say the 5th of September. And they're currently on 7 WSL wins in a row, heading into the
Yeah.
Manchester Derby on Saturday.
So Derby and Saturday. City
Mm.
sits 21 points top. Chelsea second at 20. Manchester United, they played eight as well, but they've drawn two, lost one, but sitting 17 points. The surprise for me down there is Liverpool have only drawn one game this season and lost six, and they sit at 1 point, and they're just above West Ham, with Everton in just above them on 5 points. I mean, is this Liverpool having not had a women's team, and they're feeling their way? Do you think?
No, Liverpool have historically had a very good women's team. They did under Matt Beard have two back-to-back WSL wins. I'm pretty sure in winning the
Right.
title. They've had a rocky few years, but I mean, I want to say that's probably affected them players mentally with him passing away a few months ago. That would obviously be a factor in it, but.
Right.
It's just the way they've been playing probably hasn't been good. I mean, the manager that's come in at the start of the season, Gareth Taylor, City's old boss, he had a bit of a sour ending to his time at the club. There was a lot of things that were said. The fans weren't really behind him. Sour ending. He was sacked at City in March. Yeah, in March, and I remember. I don't want to say I was buzzing about it, but probably was the right decision was made. But I think with Liverpool, it's just the way they've been playing and results haven't. They've been unlucky. I mean, against City, they were unlucky. They should have had a last minute equaliser, but it was ruled out, thankfully. Thank God for the offside rule. I know I hate it sometimes, but sometimes it really does come in your favour.
It's funny that, Harry, isn't it? Sometimes there's rules you like, sometimes there's rules you don't. You know, it's just when it suits you. Now, if you go back 12 months, the name Ruben Amorim wouldn't have trotted off many lips. But it's now 12 months since the Portuguese manager has been in situ at Manchester United. And there's a great article, actually, I think it's in The Athletic, talking about United's search for a manager, how they got rid of Ten Hag, and how Amorim's name came to the fore, and how they did the deal. And he wasn't actually top of the list at the time, but just in the round. I mean, at the moment, his record is 21 wins, 14 draws, 19 losses. That's 54 games he's played. It's a win rate of 40%, and his win percentage is the lowest of any permanent Manchester United since the Second World War, which isn't great. It isn't great, but he does seem to have the backing of the club, and they do believe that the project under him is the right one. But let's go back a year ago. Did anybody, either of you, know of this Ruben Amorim lad?
Yeah, because his sporting team had, I think, just spanked Manchester City about 4-0 in the
That's
Champions
it.
League.
That's right. That's how we heard of him.
And
Yes.
there was a rumor as well that with obviously Hugo Viana coming to City from Sporting to take that vacant sporting director role, there was rumors that he could potentially come in following the conclusion of Pep Guardiola, and then the rumors came out that he might be going to you following the sacking of, was it Ten Hag?
Yeah, Ten Hag was sacked
Ten Hag.
only a couple of weeks before, and actually, Harry, again, my memory's terrible, but this name came out of almost nowhere because there were other managers that were linked to the job.
Yeah, there was a. It was almost as if, well, with the Eric Ten Hag thing in the first place, there was doubts about him. He then won the FA Cup final against City, which is great. And doing that was rewarded with another contract. So whenever a team is searching for a manager mid-season, there's the names sort of appear out of nowhere because you never know who's actually going to leave their current positions. And I think United fans only truly switched on to Ruben Amorim after that 4-0 in the Champions League. And when he came in, I think we were all very, 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 very happy. He gave a very impassioned speech to say that there are some dark days ahead, some tough times ahead, and it was great that from a fan perspective, he knew exactly what the sort of feeling was. He then later on went to go and say that it's the worst Manchester United team there's ever been. So he's not afraid to ruffle a few feathers, and he's still doing that at the moment. And he's with every manager. There's always doubts about should he still be in the position. Obviously, he lost to Grimsby. That was the big one this season. And then there was a number of games. There was calls for his sacking, not only from fans but also from the media as well. And then if you look at him now, he seems to be slowly but surely finding his feet. Don't want to jinx anything just yet, but no, I think he's a year on. If you look at the stats, it's not the greatest thing in the world. I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about, but the actual feel around the club, the feel around the dressing room, I feel like if there's anything he's done right, he's got that right so far.
And the thing about it is that he's slotted into a new football hierarchy at Manchester United. So it's not just about Amarin or his coaches. It's the head of football. It's the CEO, for example, and they went for somebody who could play a 3-4-3 style of football, or who so they were looking differently for the manager that they wanted, really. I got to say, I like the guy, and I like the guy because I think he's honest, and he's he has a bit of a swagger, and you need a swagger, and the best players had a swagger, and you want him as a United fan, you want him to do well, and I think he wouldn't have come mid-season because he didn't want to do that,
He said he wanted to wait until the summer, give himself chance to complete his project at Lisbon, because he had a really good relationship, not only with the fans, but the board and his players as well. A lot of United fans were sort of hoping that their star striker, Gyökeres, would have come over as well. Quite glad he didn't now. But I think when you're saying with this attitude point of view, and he's got a bit of a swagger, I think the biggest thing that United fans will appreciate is he came in and he had a lot of players in there, a lot of dead weight, this bomb squad, these players who we just wanted off the books. And he made some bold calls. He's still making bold calls now about leaving certain players out. And I'm sure that we all like to pretend we're football managers. It's a lot of the pressure's gone off Amrim's shoulders since they've released Football Manager 26, because we're all concentrating on that. But anyway, he's been able to get rid of the deadweight players, bring in his own players as well, and bring in this style and ethos. And yet some people might not like this 3-4-2-1 he's playing, but it seems as though he's getting the best, or starting to get the greatest potential out of his players. And the last thing I want to say on Amrim is, whenever there's doubts about a manager, whenever a manager isn't performing, the first thing we think to do is pull the plug, change things up, rip up the paper, and try something new. But what I like and what we've seen is this is something that United have done for years on years. Look at Ten Hag's contract renewal. You look at Mourinho as well. We bring in these managers, get them gone, and then we take to the next bloke in line saying, right, pick up the pieces. Whereas with this new system, this new ethos, they've decided this is our man. They even said that in an interview, he's going to be here for a number of years, 3 years. That's exactly what we want to hear as Manchester United fans, because we're talking about Project 21. We are first and foremost trying to rebuild this team, rebuild the club. And with a manager like that, who isn't afraid to poke his head above the parapet, I think it was a good piece of business, and I hope that it's gonna prove dividend as well, and we'll get the rewards as long as we stick with him and stick with our man Ruben Amrim.
And he's got a lovely chant as well. What is your chant for Guardiola at City, Erin?
There is one, but I can't remember what song it's based on. I want to say that I can't remember what song it's based on. But I fear if we get a bit of singing from me, it might rain a little bit more than it should do. So I don't think we'll be getting a rendition, I'm afraid.
All right. Okay. Well, let's move up to the weekend. There's a couple of things I want to talk about just before we go. But let's look at what's happening, because we're in a weird period now. Tonight is the Women's Champions League. Some great games in it, I gotta say. Bayern play Arsenal at 5:45. Barcelona play 11 at 5:45. Manchester United host Paris Saint-Germain at Old Trafford. Actually, I forgot about that
Big,
tonight. That's where it should be.
big game
Yeah,
as well. It's Mary Earps' return to English football, return to Manchester United as well, after the not only her leaving the club, but also her controversial book that has come out as well.
Oh, yeah.
We were looking forward to Trent's reception at Anfield. I think that this is going to be another one to certainly turn the volume up on the remote control.
The only thing is, though, I think with you guys and Mary Earps, it's really split, because I remember speaking to someone about this last night. I said she's come out and said she expects maybe a bit of booing. She doesn't know what sort of reception she's going to have. But it's kind of split, though, because like some United fans don't hate her, whereas another group do. So I feel like it's going to be mixed, but I don't think it'll be as, let's just say, I don't think it'll be as hostile as what Trent received for Liverpool. It's kind of mixed. Some people hate her, some people don't.
I agree. I can't see it. I can't see it. But anyway, I'll be at choir, so I'm not able to watch it. But I'll catch up with. I think BBC do summaries actually, and
Yeah, they
video
do.
summaries. So that's good, and great game. Atletico Madrid versus Juventus at 8 o'clock. So that's the main football tonight. There's also some women's football league action or League Cup action as well in England, and then we go to World Cup qualifiers. Can somebody help me out here? What the heck is happening to football at the moment? So we're into World Cup qualifiers. England are playing Serbia at Thursday night. Now, I've heard that Jude Bellingham is being a little bit weird. He didn't fly back with the squad or something at the weekend. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, there was this rumours. I think he said he was being a bit of a pain. Some would say pain in the neck, or stronger terms as
there
well.
was something
Yeah.
that rhymed with his name. Yeah.
But it's one thing. It certainly won't. Pardon the pun, but it won't fly with the manager, because he's at the moment he's all about unity. He's rewarding players in his squad who play as part of a team, because that's been the problem with England for as long as I can remember. It's always been a team of superstars or individuals, but never an actual team of players. And you can see every single game we've played, he's pretty much played the exact same starting 11, obviously apart from when injuries have dictated otherwise. And he's always rewarded those who have been part of the team and part of this ethos that he agrees with. And Jude Bellingham, he may have been the golden boy, he may have been the poster boy with that overhead kick for England in the Euros, but it's certainly not going to do him any favours to trying to get into Tuchel's England squad if he's doing that, because unity and all that, you don't really want them to be flying off the head. And for me personally, I don't think it's a big miss for the England squad. I think with this new Tuchel system which we've been playing, we've been looking a lot more confident. We haven't just been relying on the one player, which I think, as I said, as England fans and as a club as well, we've got to start doing is relying on the team rather than turning to individuals, because we've been doing that for far too long. But no, that's not quite a hot take, because I think a lot of people share that opinion. But he's got a long way to go to get back into that England team, especially if he's acting like that.
It feels that he's almost got a little bit too big for his boots. I believe he also flew back on his own with his parents as well. Didn't fly back with the squad, even though Harry Kane flew back with the squad and then flew back to Germany again, because it's about squad unity. But there you go. That's so. There are tonight. There are Women's Champions League games, and then Thursday night we're into UEFA World Cup qualifiers, and England Serbia is at 7:45. That will be on your telly somewhere. The Republic of Ireland play Portugal at the same time, and I think that's it for the home nations. And then into Friday that continues, and just seeing where is my beloved Where's my Northern Ireland take on Slovakia, as Slovakia accorded to quarter to 8. So then the Red and White Army will be watching and shouting at their tellies at that. And then on the weekend, there's more UEFA World Cup qualifiers. I wish we could just get this done. To be honest with you, it's doing my head.
Well,
But the big game at the weekend is got to be the Manchester Derby in the Women's Super League. That's a huge game at 1:30. And where are they going to play that, by the way, Erin?
This is being played at the Etihad Stadium, so there's a
Nice.
it
massive
might be
crowd
full for
expected for that.
once. Might be full for
Oh,
once.
they're hilarious!
Tell you
How
what,
funny!
it'll be a damn sight louder, I think it will, Harry.
There
Yeah,
have
I
there
think it
have
will as
actually
well.
been two record crowds for this fixture in previous games. I think the one in 2019 it was a WSL record for the first time at 32,213. I was there for that one. That was my first ever game.
Hey.
And then the 2022 drew 44,250, which again broke the attendance record before Arsenal went and broke it.
Mhm.
Shock horror. But yeah, this fixture at the Etihad normally gets around 44,000 people every time, depending on fixture timing. But half
Mhm.
one to me seems a bit of a bonkers kickoff time because I'm going to end up in Mary D's pub about 10 o'clock in the morning
Yeah,
before the game.
You gotta get to the
it's
pub. You gotta get to the pub. It's key. And then Alty, the National League starts at 3 minutes past 3 on Saturday. What's that about, guys? I can't remember.
Three up, three down campaign. It's the National League's campaign to get an extra promotion spot following in. So I think it's also not just the National League. I don't know whether you've seen this, Harry, but there was club statements released by the likes of people at Hyde United and Northern Premier League sides that have said they're also going to be kicking off at the same time as part of the campaign.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's whenever it's always the timing of the kickoff which always raises eyebrows, and I feel like this one is for an actual genuine reason and a decent reason as well. It's if you currently in the National League, there's only two promotion spots. There's the one automatic, and then there's the second one which is dictated through the playoffs. And if you look at the likes of York City, who have finished second in the last 3 seasons, last season for in fact they were
Yeah.
something like 16 points ahead of third place Oldham, who actually went up. So for teams like that,
Yeah.
who when you come second by quite a large margin and you still don't get promoted, this is why they say the National League is such a good league, but it's also such a hard league to get out of. So when clubs fall into it, some say it can be the end of the clubs. It really can be, because trying to get back up to the Football League is very difficult. I think pretty much every single team in the National League has put a statement out to say that they are in support of this three-up movement. I think it'd be a great thing for the sport. And also it gives me that extra 3 minutes to try and finish my pint before I'm not allowed to take a pint into the terraces. So happy days for me as well.
So it's a huge game for Alty at the weekend playing Brackley Town, because they're basically joint on points, but Brackley Town have a game in hand. So that's a big game. I'm going down to that game myself, actually, with a couple of mates. So I'm looking forward to that. Any other games that caught your eye? This well, actually, it isn't that weird time of the day. There's more Women's Super League games on a Sunday, of course. Biggie in Liverpool versus Chelsea at midday, and Everton go down to London at midday for West Ham game, and Tottenham Hotspur. Arsenal is probably one of the biggest games of the day
Yeah.
as well.
Two big derbies across the weekend. The Manchester derby on the Saturday. You know, your big main event as
The big
such
main
in the league.
event.
Big main event, and then you got the North London derby as your afters to look forward to for that one.
There you go. And just to finish off, I mean, we're going to talk as we get closer to the transfer window. Who needs what? But I've heard conflicting reports that United are going to be in the market for like a defensive midfielder. I've heard reports to say they're not going to spend anything. Of course, you don't really know, do you? But well, I mean, Harry is a United fan. I mean, what's your view? Do we need to spend?
I think we always need to spend in this market. I think if we don't and we keep players on the books, we just end up spending more money on wages for players we don't use than what we actually spend in the transfer market. So I saw rumours that United aren't going to extend Jadon Sancho's contract because they've got an option to extend, and by doing so they'll be able to sell him on. But they're choosing not to do that. They're choosing to cut their losses, as reports suggest, so that they can just get him and his £200,000 wages off the books. And I think that's a great bit of business. I think this season it's been very much sort of like batting down the hatches and sort of trying to plug the gaps. And so far we've done that. Casemiro's looked pretty good. Ugarte, a little bit hit and miss. So I think bringing in a defensive midfielder would definitely be something I would like to see. One of the players that have been linked with that is Wolves' João Gomez, who's he's been playing for the Old Goal for the last few seasons. His price tag originally was going to be £60 million, which is quite a lot of money for a central midfielder. But obviously with Wolves in the current predicament that they are, they're looking like they're most likely going to go down, or if they do stay up, it'd be a pat on the back for the newly appointed Rob Edwards. £30 million is not bad for a midfielder. Now, of course, we were linked with the Brighton midfielder, Belieber. He came up to Brighton and let's just say his audition wasn't brilliant. He was almost surely going to come to United and didn't go through. We played him in the league and it was very much an anticlimax. But I've been keeping tabs on João Gomez and I think he's a great player who isn't afraid to put the hard yards in. And with a player who was only born in 2001, so he's only a year older than me. He's certainly earning an awful lot more money than I am. But he's the sort of player you want whose legs will last a while rather than Casemiro, who has been playing well, but it's a question of for how long.
Well, look, we're going to get into who needs what as we get closer to the window. That's a slightly extended Theatre of Dreams extra time. There was lots of discussion as usual, and there's a lot more we could discuss, but we'll be back next week. And you've been listening to and possibly watching Erin Carroll or Harry Morell. I'm Rod Maxwell. This is the Theatre of Dreams podcast, the football podcast, and we will see you very soon. Guys, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Cheers.